when we come through. Why you always hate to break bread? Dog out. What's up, y'all? Oh, good God. Hold on. It's fucking chilly over here. What do we got? Shout out to Dickie Hardy's for manufacturing these long johns. Shit is fucking for real. Oh. So I just spent I woke up at holy shit, I woke up at 3 a.m. and started working on this intro video, and I did all this recording and everything, trying to do the intro for GRAVID, and I did all this recording, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just like I edited the sound file and everything. R.I.P. Dear General. Oh God. Yeah, really looking forward to going to war with Iran. I think that's really smart. What the fuck are they doing? I'm too old to draft, but I'll still get blown up by the dirty bomb. So there's that aspect of it. It's fucking wonderful. God, it's so dumb. You know, why do we even give a shit what's happening over there? We could just be hanging out here in the USA, doling out disbursements to science fiction writers with all that military money. So what do we got? Somebody joined up to the chat. They're asking for 0sec or undernex or whatever. Sounds like a bunch of nerd shit to me. I don't know how y'all feel about it. It's January 3rd. We're fucking... Oh, yeah, let me take this. This shit does not do anything. It's fucking Niagen, whatever. This is Spud Newt's idea that we got a hold of this. Critical support for comrades above. So Spathywa says, didn't see the intro. Yeah, I didn't. You didn't see it because I'm gonna have to fucking transcode the video. Like the raw video is like an hour long, 4K 60 FPS. Wait, hold on. That's a lot of fucking. Yeah, I'm hearing crazy buzzing on this motherfucker. All right, hold on. Let me see if rebooting the unit will help. I'll be right back. I just got to chase down that ground loop once and for all, man. Things you can't do. Here's a pretty good fucking idea. Yeah. Yeah, you know, what? Check. There we go. Yeah, what if we didn't have an unshielded power line just draped over our XLR cable? I bet our audio would sound way better there. God, you know, it's just, my life has been in kind of a shambles since I started this editing project. You know, if you just work really hard on something, like when you try to do other stuff, you're just like, oh, I don't have anything left for you, like cleaning my house or you know, going to my job or any of that shit. Like I spent all that on editing science fiction novels. Good God Almighty! But you know, we're out here. World's about to end, and I'm happy to have y'all with me when it happens. Just if I get blown to fucking smithereens, somebody out there, I think Spathywa has like a full copy of this book here. We'll just have to get somebody smarter than me to finish editing it. And I can't. The worst part about is that I cut into editing time there. I could have started at 5 o'clock this morning, and I'm like, no, let me just try and sort this out, and just premiere steady sucking a fat dick. And what I ultimately what I should have done is I took a copy just with a camcorder of of some alternate video, and the alternate video like works just fine. I could have used the temporary file while this is transcoding, but anyhow, nerd shit, not super important. I'm just gonna fire off a handbraking code of whatever. But yeah, like further complicating the whole thing was that just Premiere is just like, oh yeah, how would you like to hear audio from video clips? No, never again. So let me see. So I've edited 40 chapters. That's apparently enough to train an AI to edit the rest. No, I don't think that that's really how this is going to work out there. So this is kind of a fun chapter. At least I remember it being fun when I was writing it. I don't 100% remember what's going on. So we got into this weird jacking off scene, and I think things went pretty well when we were working on that. And now we're here at chapter, is it actually 41? I think I edited that to be the right number. Yeah. Shout out to everybody who bore with me for that whole like ejaculation scene in the last one right there. What are we fucking doing? But yeah, the show must go on. We have to continue and proceed. Once we get to chapter 50, we can say that we're halfway done, even though we won't even be like 3/5 of the way done, really, at that point, is the way that I see it. Yeah, so Stratum in the chat now is saying that the general was handsome. And yeah, generally, if you want to martyr somebody, you want to pick somebody who's real ugly. So that less women are like, oh, I could have fucked that guy. And less men are like, oh, I could have been fucked by that guy, etc. So yeah, it's not super smart. And then we'll just see some crazy terror attack or something as a reprisal, and then we'll just marching towards the apocalypse, which is a shame because I definitely want to have this book fucking finished, and if it's going to be successful, enjoy the fruits of that labor, and then get way out of hand and start believing my own hype and lose all my friends and go into a degenerate drug style and wind up living in a meth trailer in Florida and then getting booted out of it and applying to work at Domino's. So that's my dream, and the forces that be might try and steal that dream away from me with their warmongering, hawk-like fucking masters of death nonsense. So not happy about it, but what are you going to do? They saw their shot, and then they hit some dude with a fucking barrage of like 5 drone missiles. Just putting it out there, it probably cost like $30 or $40 million to kill this one dude with a bunch of drones. We just literally, I'm sure that for $30 or $40 million, that guy would have just retired to fucking Aruba. Just been like, all right, fuck it. The dream is to get the book published before the apocalypse. So it's on the shelves for eternity after the nukes drop. Yeah, that's one thing that really makes me want to get things on print is the coming apocalypse. We'll have to start encoding it into tardigrade DNA so that it'll echo throughout eternity right there. But I digress. Let's get to chapter 41. So, chapter 41, even after she was dressed and ready for school, Freya still couldn't make up her mind whether or not to go. That is not a good intro sentence. She needed something to clear her mind, and her eyes fell on her guitar case. She'd gotten home so late she hadn't had a chance to practice last night. Ooh, I mean, part of it, too, is just like, I'm like, frustrated from... think of well, I don't see what that has to do with anything fucking Astro. Like, I just really don't care about race shit one way or the other. I don't care about you guys. I don't care about the diversity people. It's boring. I don't give a fuck. I only care about science fiction shit. And like, if you want to take a look into the future or whatever, I gotta tell you, the future is everybody being like a little bit browner. The end. That's as exciting as race gets. Nothing really important happens. There's no race war. There's no like it'll get a little weird, I guess, when people start genetically engineering to the point where they're choosing skin color. But hopefully by that time, we'll just start going for some really wild shit. Like I want a hot pink or millennial yeller baby or whatever there with tangerine horns and a fucking horse's mane and a giraffe's dick and all that. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Anyhow, that's what's interesting to me. Just these like far out scenarios. I don't really give a fuck about the mundane differences between human beings because all of them are pretty bad when all is said and done. There are a few good people out there, but all of us are pretty fucking mediocre when it comes right down to it. You know, we should get on with our lives and stop worrying about that shit. It's my opinion. So even after she was dressed and ready for school, Freya still couldn't make up her mind whether or not to go. So yeah, let's think about more how she's feeling in this situation right here. This is after somebody has like jacked off. What is it, like 8 times in there? All right, hold on. Where's more of this like white nationalist bullshit? This is the decade of supervillains. Not just funding an army of clones right now and killer drones. Where do you think Weave is? He's working in the clone factory. I think Andrew Arnheimer right now is on like probably in the deepest trough of his cycle of methamphetamine addiction. I don't think that he's doing anything useful. He claims to like have a family and be raising children and stuff like that, so that might be the case. You know, like if he managed to completely subsume his odious personality long enough for somebody to start dating him, and he's just concentrating on raising children right now. That's great. Hopefully they won't turn out as fucked up as he did. But yeah, I doubt he's working in a clone factory. Sad as I am to say it there. All that money that Notch has, and he's still fucking fat. I'm just putting it out there. If I get like fedora money like that, I'm definitely gonna have a bunch of big giant dominatrices follow me around every time I like try to eat something that I'm not supposed to. They're just gonna like slap it out of my hand with their tits and like make me grovel and shit like that. And then I'll just burn off a lot of calories fucking. So wow, what a world we would live in there. But yeah, like why hasn't Notch spent some of that fuck you money on getting healthy? Like it feels terrible to be fat. Oh, I can't understand it. Anyhow. Even after she was dressed and ready for school. She needed something to clear her mind, and her eyes fell on her guitar case. She'd gotten home so late last night. Yeah. All right, let's unpack this paragraph. I think it just needs to be rewritten. Let's scroll back a little bit. Hot feeling on her skin subsides. She raises to her feet. Hypersexuality. Okay, so this is where she's already had some time to. So she's gotten out of the shower. Okay. Mm. Yeah, I don't like that even. as I think about you, fair to me. Mhm. So Freya was dressed and ready for school, but she still couldn't make up her mind whether or not to go. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you should start your own channel where you write like the new fucking. I mean, honestly, it's about time for somebody to update the Turner Diaries. Why don't you just do that? Like the Turner Diaries were written like dog shit, so it's not like a high plateau to reach. So yeah, why don't you just hop to that? I, I will tell you, I always say this, but like my absolute favorite part of the Turner Diaries, which are not good, um, but I love that they use mortars in their assassination attempt. I just fucking think mortars are so cool. I love the idea of people just looking up and oh, and they're so simple too. You get like just a bunch of hillbillies could wreck so much shit with mortars, and they just never bother. I don't know, cause I guess cause fucking I don't think you even need like full calculus or whatever. It's just some kind of trig to make it happen. But I mean I don't know enough trigonometry to mortar anything. Just by the way, FBI, I'm not planning on mortaring anything. I just think they're cool. Uh, uh Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why we persist in this shit. I've told you, I just don't give a shit. And I'm not gonna ban you out of the chat, just because you have autism. Because then I'm the racist one, racist against the noble race of autismos. But yeah, like I don't know, it's definitely not making me like you more. So whatever your goal is, I hope you reach it with this nonsense. Oh. Yeah, and I don't think that any of the people viewing this are like really hep to your message either. So it's just kind of, you jacking off in the dark, which is a wonderful image. But say la vie, man. People gonna do what they're gonna do. If she stayed at home, she would slowly go insane. No, yeah, ethno state. Yeah, that's gonna fucking happen. It doesn't exist anywhere in the fucking world. Anywhere. What's the closest thing that you have right there? Like the Japan's immigration policies or whatever? They're not doing so well at the moment. I mean, shout outs to Japan. I haven't been there, so maybe they are doing fantastic. But it does seem like they're in like a relatively steep decline. But I could be wrong. But yeah, I just don't think that shit works. Why can't you find a functional example of a working ethno state? Israel, as an ethno state, fucking ridiculous. What you know what I mean? That that country will not fucking exist in 2 centuries. Zero way. It's just politically impossible that they'll continue to exist in their current situation. It's just, they can keep dancing on the head of a pin for, I don't know, 100 more years or whatever. But as soon as America begins to collapse, they're done. Uh, just like a completely untenable position for somebody who's like looking a century out. Um, yeah, just, anybody who's like, oh, like they're just completely ignorant of the scope of what's going on. There are a billion fucking people in China. There are a billion people in India. Everything that we're doing here is a sideshow compared to like those demographic truths. There are going to be like 350 million people in just Nigeria alone, maybe by like 2050. Like one country in Africa with a larger population than the United States. Like just all those people with like their hopes and dreams and desires and everything. And just they're gonna be there. They're not going anywhere. You're not gonna get rid of them, and just the narrative is gonna shift towards these larger population groups and the culture that they have, because there will be more of them to spread that culture. So Canada was an ethno state in the 19. I doubt it. I mean, there's a lot of whites up there in old Canada, but they've always had like relatively lax immigration policies as compared to. I mean, the USA has like really compared to other places in the world lax immigration, but it's just you build your state or whatever, and what do you think is going to fucking happen? Like, let's take a best case scenario for we get like uh, every fucking skinhead in America goes off and they fucking conquer Madagascar, right? I think that's about the best that they could hope for, and they somehow manage not to get fucked up by the UN or have it taken back. And let's just say some other army doesn't just decide to come in there and fucking wipe them out, because why not? Because they're not nationally recognized or whatever. So you have this state of anarchy, I would be astonished if you get more than 100,000 people to participate in this endeavor. But let's say that you get 100,000 people there working, like say that they're even successful in creating some kind of representative government and it just doesn't immediately descend into anarchy. Who gives a shit? Like 100,000 people. It's not like they're going to be discovering great science or, like building new rocket ships to go to the fucking moon or whatever. It'll just be a small and independent and irrelevant republic that becomes increasingly economically isolated. And then, like, ultimately, they just won't fucking matter. You'll, like, even if you were warlike and able to defend your borders or whatever, you just be like a curiosity, like the Sentinelese. Shout outs to the Sentinel Islands, by the way. I love that they just eat anybody who comes over to their spot. Like, gangsta as fuck. I've read a lot about them when I was researching skin tone differentiation. I think for Xanon Inc., but it might have been for some other book where I was talking about somebody who was just like very, very black. And apparently, the people in the Sentinel Islands are the blackest people in the world. And the second blackest are like Nilotic Africans, which is really cool. Anyhow, what do we have here? Lemur Uprising, and then Samsung TV thinks that it will start with white only towns. Again, even if it does, like if you have a billion people, right? And those people right now are relatively constrained by the fact that China's economy, like while it's like halfway to being in like an advanced economy, right? And so you have like all these people currently constrained by like relatively desperate poverty and so forth. They're not going to stay poor forever. Industrialization will continue. They've made some like extremely shrewd banking maneuvers. Like all those people are going to have something to say about how the world happens. And like a bunch of isolated towns, like guided on the principle of like, oh, we're all the same color. So we got that going for us. Like, what the fuck does that do? Worthless. You know what I mean? I'm happy to at some point uh, debate one of these prominent white nationalists or something like that on the other stream because I really just I'm 100% the science is on my side that it's fucking irrelevant. I could not and it's irrelevant, and on top of that, like it's distasteful to the vast majority of people, so you don't even come across with like that though you're doing something stupid and insane, you don't get any of that like fools and madman punishment. Nobody sees these people as quixotic figures, sallying forth or whatever. They just see them as ugly and misguided. So low crimes, 'cause the crime doesn't fucking matter, like it really, really does not currently matter. I don't even think that you can score like a lot of political hay about it in America. So anyhow, we're getting a hang up from Spathy. Well, yeah, we're here to fucking edit. Let's see. Yeah, so this freshman poll discussion is wasting time. Yeah, I don't know. It's just been like for the past, I don't know, it's been like 10 days or whatever. Dude will pop in with his ideas, but I just don't agree with those ideas. And like finally, I just felt like saying something. But yeah, we've barely gotten through a paragraph, and we have less time to work today. And I would like to get through this paragraph. I'd like to get through this chapter as well. So I'm gonna end our discussion here, and I'm gonna get back to working on the thing. And I just encourage you, like I'm not the type to really ban people from shit, but keep in mind your audience when you're wasting your time saying shit, because I will never care. I'll never hold your position. I find it like extremely unlikely that I would be swayed or that you could provide evidence for me to take your position, right? And I've already had all the traumatic life events that would cause somebody to become like super, like all that shit has already happened to me, right? So, you're just never going to recruit me into your thing. You're just wasting your time. Okay. Yeah, so he's going to get back to work. Good luck. Ugh. Let me see there. So, Freya realized if she stayed home, Freya realized that if she stayed home, Starball to the prison that was the pocket. I don't want to spoil anything here, but I don't know that we're set up for a sequel with this guy. Although we're probably going to change our ending significantly. I think the last 10% of the book will be almost completely rewritten um, through this whole thing. Mm-hmm. Oh God! In the other chat, somebody is trying to get in touch with Thread. Why? I guess they probably need a hit put out on a fucking emu. Ridiculous. It was a long, cold bicycle ride to school ahead of Freya, or another insufferable cab ride. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. It's really tempting to make some kind of fingering pun here, but totally unacceptable. Mm. Oh, so that's awkward. Yeah, yeah, like yeah, it's one of the reasons why. The usually the first thing that I do when I wake up is I either write or I edit, is so that my head isn't like clouded with a bunch of other shit. It's kind of funny. Like as I'm writing this chapter, I know that I myself am like lacking in focus and I'm like struggling to get it together. So it's kind of like, whew, definitely writing from experience right here. There was a long, cold bicycle ride to school ahead of. It looked like rain again. There was a long, cold bicycle ride to school ahead of Freya, or another insufferable cab ride. She didn't want. Uh, mm-hmm. And shout outs to that car alarm. Uh, I don't know. You know what I would like is if I had access to the roof here. Every time that I saw a car alarm going off or whatever, I would just hop up on the roof and grab my slingshot and just shoot out one of their windows. Because I think if your car alarm is going off, it should go off for something. I don't want it to ring in vain. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you draw a katana, you have to shed blood. Same thing with a car alarm. If it goes off, one of your windows needs to get broken. That's just what I think. I'm just not a fan of fucking car alarms. I doubt that there's like much in any of these cars that's worth stealing. And if they do, whatever. Just have fucking insurance. I guess that's probably pretty froofy. So shout outs to good guy Greg, who says that it was a dork and stormy night. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, we're struggling with this chapter here. It's a tough morning, but we do this every single day. So it looked like rain again. There was a. Mm-hmm, It looked like rain again. Freya could look forward to either a long, cold bicycle ride to school or another insufferable cab ride. Neither was appealing, but staying home was no better. She would just dwell on everything that was worrying her and slowly go insane. Uh, let's take that out of there. Mm-hmm. Mm. I'm not sure that I could buy that. I wonder if there's a name for there's like a principle that keeps people from doing the same repetitive action, and it's kind of like boredom. But I wonder if there is a name or like a scientific name for what what like drives people forward and keeps them from getting stuck into pitfalls of just staying in one place or doing one thing for a really long time. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is actually something that's more prone to make people do a repetitive action over and over and over again. No, there's like some motivating force that gets people out of bed. Like what's like fucking driving us to do things. No, it's probably. I mean, if you want to get really basic with it, yeah, probably everything is like a drive to like stay alive and reproduce. But that's not. It's not what I'm getting at. I'll think it over. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. So, people, good guy Greg asks, "Have I read the men writing women Twitters?" Just FYI, I'm a trans man. So I spent the first 30 years or so of my life as a woman, as you can tell from my lesbian rab femme hairdo. So yeah, just an FYI, I was born a woman, so I feel very qualified to write women. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it's very kind of you to say, good guy, Greg. But uh, yeah, I need to gain a little more weight if I really want to uh, pass. But I'm working on it. Anyhow, if you're not going to bother practicing, I'm not going to bother coming. Freya would never forget the way Mr. Mathis had said that. It was like a hornet caught in her head that stung her again and again. She took the ovation out of its case. uh, so I want uh, running her tired fingers along the what's the word that we want here? Running her fingers along the edge of the fretboard. She took the ovation out of its case, running her fingers along the edge of the fretboard, lingering on the pearl leaves. She plucked each string and listened. The G string was slightly out of tune. She turned the peg until it sounded right, and then she loaded the tuner app on her phone and checked each string. They were all spot on. She didn't really need the tuner, but Mr. Mathis had insisted she use one every time she picked up a guitar. the same way. Okay. She plucked each string and listened. The G string was slightly out of tune. She turned the peg until it sounded right. Then she loaded the tuner app on her phone and checked each string. They were all spot on. She didn't really need the tuner, but Mr. Mathis had insisted she use one every time she picked up a guitar. It was like Randall advising her to chalk her cue before every shot. Consistency was everything. So that's where that is a semicolon, because these two clauses are unrelated. So good guy Greg asks if she can play a lute. At this time, no, she cannot. But actually, there's a section later in the book where guitar is like a pretty significant part of this book. And later in the book, she actually has her eyes on a really nice mandolin there. But I don't want to spoil a lot of the surprise on that one because there's a lot going on in that scene. But yeah, like I'm not a guitar player. I played a little bit when I was in high school, but I was never any good. So good boy Greg is asking, does someone steal her guitar? There are no spoilers on the stream, so you'll just have to listen and find out. If you're interested in reading more of the story, if you go to, you can see this site like scrolling just directly above my head there. We have all the chapters up there, and I think it's on Wattpad too, so you can read through it. How far do we have to go before we get to more guitar stuff? I think from this point on in the book, there's more and more about guitar. So if guitar is what you like, you're at the right place. Mr. Mathis had perfect pitch as well, but he'd warned her a head cold or feeling low down could mess her up, and she might wind up playing an entire show flat if she was careless. He didn't trust her phone. He had a battered old Korg WT-12A chromatic tuner in his case that was older than she was. She spent a few minutes working on the standard chord and note warm-up routine she did every practice. Her fingers were stiff after all the action earlier, but she worked it out of them. Then she noodled a bit on a song she'd been trying to write, but she could tell she wasn't in the right place to find the next part of it. Next, Freya tried to... there we go. We spent a few minutes working on the standard chord and a note warm-up routine she did every practice. Her fingers were stiff after all the action earlier, but she worked it out of them. Then she noodled a bit on a song she'd been trying to write, but she could tell she wasn't in the right place to find the next part of it. Next, Freya tried playing something relaxing, picking through green sleeves, but she couldn't feel the music. She was just going through the motions. Again and again, she found herself drifting off, thinking about the torrid dream and messing up the notes. It was 6 a.m. and the dawn began. Sunbeams spilled through her curtains and onto Yggdrasil's Pronounce Yggdrasil.
Drizzling? No, not here.
Hold on. Is it really not drizzling here? Fucking Siri. I think it's Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil. There we go. Sunbeams spilled through her curtains and onto Yggdrasil's leaves, scattering through the room. She walked over and parted them, parted the curtains, feeling the sunlight on her skin. What did she really want to play? On impulse, she started to play Wild Horses, one of her favorite songs. She wanted to buy a 12-string so she could do the Nashville tuning for the Mick Taylor part, but Mr. Mathis had told her not to get ahead of herself. He said she should learn 6-string first, then nylon, then electric before bothering with the 12-string. She couldn't get the same sound on the Ovation, of course, but she was enjoying it anyway. As the sun rose, she could feel the ball of tension in her chest begin to unknot. She thought about walking up to the counter at the diner, about dining inside, Dan standing with his fists raised, staring out at the road. 30, good lord, I'm really going to miss this when it's over. Well, Fancy Scientician, you are in luck, because as soon as this one ends, we're going to start writing a short story. We'll probably spend about 30 days on that. And then after that short story, we will begin with, I might let viewers decide what they want to see an edit on. We might do a full edit of, in fact, we'll probably go towards this because it's about time. We might do a full rewrite of a novel I did called Lemon Maybe and the Electric Lady, which is about a bunch of barflies in Hell's Kitchen suddenly getting superpowers and just doing terrible things with them. So that one's cool. Then we have a book called Rapasaurus that I could do one of these extensive edits on there. That's like a fantasy novel there. It's much less difficult than this. I also have one that's about this level of difficulty called Rub, that's about transformation. And it gets really, really wild with it there. So yeah, I never intend to stop doing this. I'm thinking about just transitioning all my writing to being here on stream. So yeah, it's better. It's much better for me. I'm getting less done, but I feel like we're getting better work done. So yeah, we're gonna work on it there. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like this is I dig this whole process, and honestly, it's like it's a good way for me to go. What I may do, so when we do writing streams or like serious rewrite streams, most likely what I will do is I will turn off. I won't be in a position where I can see comments, and I'll turn off the preview on the monitor and everything, and like all these screens will be blank, and then I will check in at the conclusion of each chapter and look at what people are saying. So Little Nick says, add me in the book. And I am going to add everybody who has done significant help editing that I can remember. So definitely remind me there. So if you want to have a spot in the book, you need to get some good edits in here. You have to contribute, and you have to contribute meaningfully. Like already, we have had like really solid and meaningful contributions from like a bunch of the people that you see on the stream, like Hogord, right there, Logic, Spathywah, Stratum earlier. All these people have given us like really useful edits that have made this a better book. And so in a way, this is kind of partly their book, not in a way where they get money for it, but I'm not going to get any money either. So like that's how socialism works, boys. But definitely in a way where they deserve credit and have my very earnest appreciation for the great service they have rendered unto me. These men are heroes. Okay. No, yeah. Shout outs to Jordan O. Right there. He's also like been a part of it. I hope he's all right, man. I bet that he got drunk as fuck during New Year's and is still on a significant bender. Uh, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. As the sun rose, Freya could feel the ball of tension in her chest begin to unknot. She thought about walking up to the counter in the diner. About dying inside. She could see Dan standing tense with his fists raised at Malcolm, staring so seriously out at the road as he drove, turning away from her on the bench. The river flowing past them as they sat on the bench, spilling themselves out to each other. Most of all, she thought about the long embrace in her driveway. Mm-hmm. Most of all, she thought about the long embrace at the end of the night. The chords were just flowing out of the guitar. She didn't have to think. She didn't have to try. The feeling went on for the whole song, and then when it was done, she sat there for a while looking out the window, watching motes of dust dancing in the sunbeams. All her worries, all her sorrows, nothing could cling to her in this place. All her sorrows fled. Nothing could cling to her in this place. She wiped her fingerprints off the ovation with a special cloth and set it back in its case. Then she picked up the star ball and held it up to the light. Mm-hmm. Freya wiped her fingerprints off the ovation with the special cloth and set it back in its case. Then she picked up the star ball and held it to the light, The sunlight flared around it like a violet corona. It was warm between. The orb was warm beneath her fingertips, and as she gazed at it, all her uncertainty was gone. If the starball was cutting off the school whiteboard or giving her crazy dreams, she didn't care. She felt at peace for the first time she could remember. That was all that mattered. Okay, so that chapter is meant to be about her getting into a little bit of like a Zen slash flow state um, with her guitar, which is why it's so ironic that we really struggled in the first part of that to get into a similar state myself. But through the power of just sitting here and not doing anything else, we managed to get through that relatively difficult section. So you can see, let me see. So the guy who was in here earlier, Astro, is now butting heads with people in the other chat room. And somebody just said that he is a subpar chatter, and I agree. And he says, I'm the only one who brings any life to these chats. And I think, we can draw some inspiration from that, right? So we want to think about like the Malcolm Lewis character. And you'll see a lot of the time somebody who doesn't quite fit in with the social group or whatever that generates like a fair amount of Zen completely fucking up his ASCII image there. But somebody who doesn't fit into a group of people and they're aware of it and so forth, they will like sort of cling to the drama that they generate as being like, oh, it would be boring without me, right? You guys need me. And there's something to that, right? There are definitely like serious shit stirrers, like in science fiction. Every conference that you go to, people will talk about Harlan Ellison and all the crazy shit that he did. And he was such an asshole, but he was also relatively talented. But the man was just like full of life and would get in fights with people and shoot off his mouth and probably snort a bunch of cocaine. I'm assuming. He never snorted any cocaine with me. But like what it came down to is like now he's dead and gone. And decades after he did this shit, people are still talking about him. He still made like a significant impact. So yeah, there's something to be said for these outliers, these outcasts, these people who have crazy fucking ideas or that are too wild or don't just fit in. Like you can see, I didn't just ban that cat earlier because even though I've heard a lot of what he has to say and everything before, if we just boot fucking everybody that we don't like, then we'll just end up with like this very average, very like milk toast, very safe, and very uninteresting discourse, which may be more appropriate given that this is a writing stream and like we're looking for people who are supportive and so forth. But I don't know. I have a hard time. Like somebody has to really cross over like a threshold with me where they're like threatening people in real life, or they're just consistently uninteresting for a long period of time, or where I feel like they're not making their points in earnest. So anyhow, uh, fucking amazing there. So this is an okay chapter. Um, I still think we're a little bit shaky at the beginning there. We definitely had like a very weak start to that chapter. But I think it gets somewhere a little bit and it'll become more important. Some of the work we're doing here to like set up her talking about guitar, like it's a slow chapter. Not a lot really happens in it. But let's oh shit. Oh shit. Actually, I just remember what else happens in this chapter. Freya had finally accepted it was late fall and worn gloves and an appropriate jacket. Now she shot up the hill and the wind couldn't touch her. All the soreness in her legs from yesterday was gone, and she felt strong. She was planning to run again tonight after guitar practice. She thought the dreams might not be so intense if she ran it out of herself. The smell of salt was somehow on the morning air. Oh, so processing. Okay, so Sunday morning was when the okay, so this is Monday morning. Right here. We still haven't fixed our dates, which I would really like to do. So yeah, she has. This is the first time she'll have a guitar lesson in the book. But yeah, a bunch of shit actually happens this morning. Oh god, it's all like running through my head. I love this fucking story. But if I love it, I need to work on it. You know what I'm saying? She was planning to run tonight after guitar practice. She thought her dreams might not be so intense if she ran it out of herself. The smell of salt was somehow in the morning air, and she could remember the dream of the rising sea as she. Oh, I think we changed River Road to some kind of poet. But yeah, in general, we'll probably do a pass over a lot of these. I like the idea of all the streets in town being named after poets in this book. But it's one where I should probably just sit down and do a search for all the streets in it and just do like a find and replace. And I think previously in the edit, this was called River Road. Um, so we'll see what we can do about the whole thing. Mm. So Spathy just asked if Zen equals thread, but I believe that that's a joke. uh, all the soreness in her legs from yesterday was gone, and she felt strong. I don't remember why her legs were sore from yesterday. What do we got here? Oh my god. I could draw a map like it's a dope fantasy novel and put it at the beginning of the book. Okay, so um like the idea, right? Generally, it's one that like we can do it because I think maps are fun and I'd like to draw one and just get an idea where everything is. And we've done all these locations in the book. So Silas is a town of I think it's like 10,000 people or something like that. So we could take some other towns and plot out how big they would be and everything. Uh, the year is 2052. The war in Iran has led to the crumbling of the American empire. Alarms blare as the supreme leader launches his nuclear arsenal. I rush to the computer to get off one last "Who must go" meme. Lol. The smell of salt was somehow on the morning air, and she could remember the dream of the rising sea as she biked. Through the parking lot that had sloughed off into the sea. She was sweating beneath her coat as she locked up her bike on the rack. Oh, well, we don't need to say. As she locked her bike. As she locked up her bicycle. Her bike was alone on the 3 long racks. She wondered if she would be the only one who rode to school today. The, the halls were almost as empty as the racks. Oh, what's with this paragraph? Uh. Yeah, I drew up a map for, I guess, Arcanist, and I don't know if I did one. I don't think I did one in Xananink. Maybe there's one. I've got a copy of it floating around here somewhere. But I like drawing maps. I have a book on how to draw fantasy maps that somebody gave me, and I had already bought a copy of it, so I have 2 of them floating around somewhere. It's pretty decent. Uh, but what do we have here? The halls were almost as empty. The few teachers who saw her only took. Oh yeah. Hmm. Wait. Let's take a look here because I think when does she wake up? Orgasm wakes her. 4 a.m. All right, because she needs a lot of time to take like this long shower. Oh, all right, let's try and time this out here. It was 5 a.m. So 5 a.m. So let's wakes up horrified, right? And so this is where the time begins, right? So jacks off once. Let's say 10 minutes, right? Unusual sleep thinking about it, another 5 minutes. So 15 minutes. Takes a shower, gets off 3 times, another 20 minutes. 15, 20. We're at 35 minutes there. Spends this time here fucking around, lingering on the phone. We're closing in on an hour about here, an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah, this needs to be 4 a.m. Cool. All right, and let's just make sure that there's not light coming in through a window or something like that. Much better. Much better. Okay, and she got to sleep pretty late too, so she did not sleep well here, which explains like a little bit of why she's so unfocused and everything. Good. Because there's a lot going on. She's like all this meteorite, all this masturbating, considering hypersexuality, spends like some time playing her guitar. So 6 a.m. and the dawn began. So she's just spending like half an hour there. And then she rides to school. Let's say that it takes like half an hour to get to school. So it's about 7 a.m. So we can think that class starts at about 7:30. Okay. Cool. The halls were nearly empty. The halls were nearly empty. Not many people had arrived yet. The few teachers who saw Freya only gave her quick nods and took sips of their coffee. They hadn't summoned the energy to speak yet. And took sips of their coffees. Oh, so coffee actually can be singular there, and took sips of coffee. They hadn't summoned the end. It's weird, right? How uh took sips of coffee there. Yeah, like the just how like that is wrong to be plural there. Took sips of coffees, which is like correct but doesn't feel right. But took sips of coffee, which is weird because like each of these people is taking like has a different discrete coffee, but we coffee just becomes like this concept there. I really need to just sit down and like read a book on grammar. And fortunately, somebody just sent me one. I'll wind up reading it anyway. Uh, they hadn't summoned the energy to speak yet. Dreams dogged her mind. Only gave quick nods and sipped coffee. Oh yeah, yeah, like we're thinking about this whole thing, but yeah, it is indeed very awkward. I hadn't summoned the energy to speak yet. Yeah, better. Good edit there. Yeah, very awkward phrasing. Maybe that's why we like fixated on it for a moment, just to realize that we were wrong. The halls were nearly empty. Not many people had arrived yet. The few teachers who saw Freya only nodded at her and sipped their coffee. They hadn't summoned the energy to speak yet. I like that. Uh, only gave quick nods and took sips of coffee sounds like Indian tech support. It's fucking ridiculous, man. That's a fate we'd like to avoid. Hold on. What's happening in that old JRE Discord right there? No offense. No, I mean, like this is such like a vast and ponderous work, right? Like I said, like nobody on earth can write consistently for 800 pages. Some of this is gonna need work. Uh, the tendrils writhing in the river, the water rushing down the auditorium steps. Nothing faded anymore. She tried to put the frantic morning behind her, but it was impossible to forget. She was still a little tender with every step she took. She'd never felt that way before, never played guitar like that before. Was that what she'd been? Then afterward, when she was playing guitar. Let me see. The way she'd felt playing guitar was new, too. Was that what she'd been practicing for so many years? Was that what she'd been practicing towards for so many years? To feel effortless? She worried she would never recapture it, that she spent everything in a moment that no one would ever hear. She dropped her coat and gloves off at her locker, returning the algebra and world history books she'd needed for homework over the weekend. Oh shit. What do we got here? We've got Botman7777. Shout outs to Botman right there. I don't know whether you are a chat bot or whether you're an inhabitant of Botswana, but in either case, you're welcome here. This is an editing stream. I'm currently editing my 8th book. And you can see right here that we're at page 280 out of 785. So, good God Almighty, we are very deep into this, but we still have a long way to go. This is a science fiction book about a young woman who encounters an alien. Hell yeah. Maybe bot flies. I hope not, man. Those are creepy as fuck. These things are awful. Shout outs to parasites. In their place, Botman has just donated $99. Is that actually true? Hmm. 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 I don't know if that's true. Let's find out. I feel like you might have just typed in that you donated $99 in a vain attempt to get my hopes up. Yeah, so yeah, it looks like I just see the hold on. Do you? Yeah, yeah, it's fake. It's fake. You almost had us there, buddy. Almost had us. Just Just got to get up a little earlier in the morning. So the YouTube stream isn't monetized, but we still take Streamlabs on it or whatever. I guess it's just an excuse for Chrono to throw gambling money at me. Yeah, so we would need about 1,900 more subscribers before we would be eligible for monetization. So yeah, we could potentially get there at some point. Yeah, do we want to make it our goal to have like 2,000 subscribers before we finish editing the book? Because I've got like that new intro and everything. Maybe people will just tune in for the intro. We shall see. But let's get to it. She dropped her coat and gloves off at our locker, returning the algebra and world history books she'd needed for home. Oh wait. She stashed her coat and gloves off at. She stashed her coat and gloves at her locker. Oh, that's how you do it. You type "me has donated $99." I'll have to save that trick to use on other people. Won't they be upset when they find out that there's no actual $99? In fact, it was but a clever ruse. Speaking of it, what's the weather today?
Here's the weather today.
A 90% chance of rain. I guess I'm not going to be riding my bicycle to school either. Maybe I'll have to get in a taxi cab with a guy who will talk about NCAA football the entire time. Hopefully not. I don't want to talk about football. She stashed her coat and gloves in her locker, returning the algebra and world history books she needed for homework over the weekend. Oh shit! Well, guys, just an FYI, it looks like we just got almost $1 billion in donations right there. So with that $1 billion, I'm just gonna call up to the school and tell them that I'm not gonna come in to work today. I think I'm gonna take a 1 day vacation now that I have $1 billion. I'll still go back to work on Monday. It seems silly to go to work on a Friday if I have $1 billion now. Cool. I'm gonna be able to afford like we're gonna get the fancy binding on this book, guys. I'm gonna get that like that silver embossing, and maybe we'll even add a watermark or something. Badass. Oh, I don't know if I buy this pure. Okay, bye. I'm gonna go trick other people. You do that. You do that. You fool those people all day long. Oh, we should almost tell him about the way that we'll be fooling people later this evening. Well, so like I know a thing or two about tricking folks. uh, all right, what do we got here? There was something unsettled and unspoken in the air. A sense that she. Oh, yeah, we just. Yeah, let's cut this paragraph. It's not good. Mm. Mm. In her backpack was the Void Captain's tale. She thought about heading to her favorite corner in the library to read until first period, but she decided to sit on the benches by the main entrance instead to read there. She hoped somebody from the party last night would come through and chat with her. She needed. Oh, shout outs to Axel Boost right there. A frequent returner to the surreal symphony of Zach ZYZ. Hey, Axel Boost. We had like a frustrating start to the morning where I'm gonna have to transcode some. I'm making in a little musical intro for the show, but some of the big files that I took to make it were just they're in a weird codec, so we're gonna have to transcode them before we can get them to work in Premiere because Premiere is garbage. Um, really unhappy with Adobe Premiere at the moment. That's fine. I'm gonna sort that all out, and we're gonna try to get through part of this chapter before we get any further there. She hoped someone from the party last night would come through. Yeah, it's a like frequent issue that I've had with yeah, Premiere just is not great at dealing with HAVEC like H265 like Apple's ProRes or whatever codec. It's just not great at it, and I got some other issue where the audio is not working. I just have to put some troubleshooting time into it there. But we're gonna try and finish the chapter. The urge to talk with others was novel, something that had been absent from her for a long time. Of course, she was really hoping to see him. She couldn't help but smile at the thought. It won't last. The thought struck like an intruder kicking in a door, and she knew at once it was true. What business did she have smiling at like an idiot at nothing in a hallway? Perching on a bench and hoping to catch a perching on a bench, hoping to caps a. The thought struck her like an intruder kicking in a door, and she knew at once it was true. What business did she have smiling like an idiot at nothing in a hallway, perching on a bench, hoping to catch a glimpse of a boy who only felt sorry for her? It hadn't even been a year, and here she was thinking about hooking up like nothing had happened. Lusting after the exact same thing she'd thrown in Lassa's face, the very thing she'd driven her away with. Freya had been pushing Lassa out of her mind for days, and now she was here, demanding attention. What if she never came back? What if she killed herself out there in the woods? It would all be on Freya, her ugly words, her feeble apology. She would never escape it. The bottom fell out. Freya didn't want to be on this bench or even hidden away in the library. She didn't want to be here at all. She wished there was a button to erase herself, a delete key for her entire life. All the crushing weight came back at once, and it was so much worse for its absence. Her vision narrowed, and everything was closing in. She set her book on the bench and reached into her pocket for the star ball. She needed something to hold on to. When her fingers brushed against the sphere, the heaviness felt less crushing, and the tightness relaxed. She removed her hand from her pocket, and the feeling began to creep back in. It's doing something to me, Freya thought. It wasn't a realization, more of an acknowledgement, something she couldn't ignore any longer. The star ball was changing her. She took it out and held it in her palm. It was hot. It had to expend energy to do this. It was hot. It had to expend energy to do this. There was an unfirmed urge running underneath her thoughts. She kept her mind blank, trying to keep it from fully emerging. The awful feeling was retreating as she held the sphere. Serenity was taking hold, and when it did, the unformed thought would die. Freya began doing the 7-breath exercise from the fragile phoenix. As soon as a thought sprang up, she imagined it breaking apart into pieces, and the fragments would tumble down and reform into another thought that she shattered, on and on like a wheel in her mind. She left her book and backpack behind, feeling pangs of alarm in her stomach as she walked down the hall, pushing them down with every breath. As she began entering the combination for her lock, a bolt of nausea struck her, but she was ready for it. She got the locker open and shoved her fist inside it with the star ball clutched in her palm. She couldn't release it. Her fingers would not unlock. With the other hand, she reached inside and pried her fingers open. The star ball clacked against the metal shelf and rolled to the back of her locker, rattling against the wire of a The star ball clacked against the metal shelf and rolled to the back of the locker, rattling against the wire of a spiral-bound notebook. Freya shut the locker door, and all the panic she'd been pushing back rushed in. The star ball was trying to control her. It was inside of her head somehow. She could remember the sudden headache and stomach pain when she thought of booking the ticket to Paris, the nausea as she'd approached the school lab. All the things she'd pushed out of her mind, the inexplicable heat, the bead of blood. Had it put something inside of her? Her steps were faltering as she moved away from the locker, returning to the bench where her book bag was. Her hands were trembling as she stuffed the book into the front pocket. It's not a tail. It's a tail. There. Good God. Her hands were trembling as she stuffed the Void Captain's tail into the front pocket. Now she really had to tell someone. Now everything was truly going to get terrible. Mm-hmm. She had the keen feeling she was missing something. The star ball had occupied more than just space in her pocket. How much of what had happened since the night at the river had been her, and how much had been the alien? The word sank in deep. Alien. It was an alien intelligence. She'd seen it beneath the microscope. She'd carried it in her pocket. The star ball had occupied more than space in her pocket. How much of what had happened since the night at the river had been her? How much had been the alien? The word sunk in deep. Alien. It was an alien intelligence. She'd seen it beneath the microscope. She'd carried the star ball in her pocket like her favorite Aggie and ignored every single warning. 100 times she could have told somebody. The thoughts went on, screaming in her mind as her pulse pounded in her ears. But as the drumming grew more distant, they fled with it. Slowly, the drumming grew more distant. With muted dread, she could feel the fog rolling back in, the obliviating weight that had ground everything inside of her to powder. Everything that had happened since the river had just been an illusion. Now she was seeing things as they were. She needed to get off this bench, away from this place. People would start to arrive. They would try to talk with her, and she knew she could not speak. There was a clawing feeling in her chest like she'd swallowed something jagged. Get up, get up, get up. She couldn't move. All the willpower she'd thought she had, all the miles she'd run and the chances she'd taken, it was all on loan, and the interest had come due. Locked to the bench, she shut her eyes tightly. People were beginning to filter in through the main doors. Each of their eyes fell on her. Their gazes scoured her. They saw a loser, the crazy girl with the dead dad who had lain in the rain. She finally managed to stand. She needed to get away, to leave the school right now, to get far away from this place. To leave the school right away. Right now away. So laying in the rain sounds rough. Oh, what do we got there? So Stratum says, what's an Aggie? It's a marble. It's like an agate marble. Yeah, let me make sure that that's not something. Yeah, Aggie marbles. So here, let's take a look at what Aggie marbles look like. Look at this guy. Fucking amazing. Yeah, so agate, or agate. How do you, hold on. Pronounce agate. Pronounce agate.
Okay, I found this.
All right, hold on. Oh, we'll have to fucking Google it because Siri is off the chain.
Want to teach your kids how to ski?
No.
Book a stay right by the slopes on booking.com.
What?
Time for our favorite game here when we play What Do You Say? And we settle another place name pronunciation debate in our state.
Suck a dick. This is awful. Yeah, that's awful. Here.
Agate. Agate.
Agate.
Agate.
Is it a? Oh yeah, I guess the pronunciation guys does have that. So agate. Why would you have like a fucking trailer on a pronunciation video? Literally like just data that I need. All right, that's fucking wretched. Agate. Yeah, man, that fucking like 10-minute videos and like bumpers and cards and shit. Like fuck these people. So I think it's Agate. So an Aggie. Anyhow, if I get a fucking copyright strike off of like those 2 seconds of that awful music, I'm gonna kill somebody IRL. Not actually, but my database is filled with hate. Agate. Would gargle those marbles. Shout out to the judge up there in the chat. Oh, did I forgot to link this in the LRH Discord there. Wait, there's an announcement in the JRE Discord? Is it about Mayor's birthday? Hold on. Oh, it's the decade in review for the Joe Rogan blogcast. So shout outs to him. So Stratum says, pro tip. If you want the best results for your nationalistic flag posting after committing war crimes on the Iranian state, use a .png to preserve the full glory of the flag. I couldn't agree more. Pings, PNGs are like just amazing. Agate. So Axel Boost says agate. But I think agate is correct. I think I usually say agate, but I think agate is it looks like it. Yeah, like I'm gonna have to sit down and actually learn how pronunciation works. Oh shit, Stratum's about to get into it with Judge right there. I can see it happening. This is not enough coffee for me, but 2 cans is too much coffee for me. So that's, I'm gonna have to wait till I get to the school and drink some of their coffee there. But yeah, I'm hungry, but I ate like way too much yesterday. So we're gonna have to chill. Anyhow, whoa, something's going down. Oh, hey, Freya. The voice rang behind her. The voice rang behind her, dripping with acid. It was Jane Yang. A voice piped behind her, dripping acid. It was Jane Yang. Freya had to escape. She couldn't possibly deal with Jane now, but her legs would not run. They would only plod 1 foot in front of the other, moving in the wrong direction. She needed to get out of the school and into a taxi. Oh, I think we used too much, like, gotta get out of the school. Um, they only plod 1 foot in front of the other, moving in the wrong direction. What's wrong with you? Jane piped, moving around in front of her. What's wrong with you? Jane asked, moving around in front of her, an ugly look on her face. Can't even look at me, huh? Freya felt like her feet were mired in concrete. Other people were looking at them. She needed to tell Jane to fuck off and leave her alone, but she couldn't summon the words. You ruined everything for me. You knew I was into him, and you turned everybody against me. Did you at least get a pity fuck out of it? Jane was shouting, and people were... You ruined everything for me, Jane accused. You knew I was into him, and you turned everyone... So you turned everyone against me. Did you at least get a pity fuck out of it? Jane was shouting. Jane's voice had risen to a near shout, and people were attracted to the commotion. Freya could only shake her head and keep moving. Don't walk away from me. I'm talking to you, Jane was howling, and a whole group of people were moving along with them, anxious to see a fight. Look at me. Jane moved into Freya's way, and when Freya tried to step around, she sidestepped to block. Freya stared at her. She knew there were ways to fix this, words she could say to diffuse the situation, but there was no traction. Everything was sinking. So we used Meyer a little bit earlier. Yeah, mired in concrete. I went there. So Jane was working herself up, shouting more abuse, but Freya couldn't even understand the words. All she could see was the girl who'd cried and cried at the notebook. The girl who'd once been one of the flock, who'd been so terrified to bring a C home from her first semester of 8th grade English. Freya looked at all the people gathered around. There was no sympathy in any of them. Freya looked at all the faces that had gathered around them. There was no sympathy in any. There was no sympathy, only hunger, eagerness to see them tear each other apart. Again, she had the urge to just lie down and let them cover her with earth. She could see a familiar face through the haze, and for a moment there was relief. Here was someone who could understand. Radomir was on the border of the crowd, trying to figure out what was happening, and when he recognized them, he slipped to the front. Radomir's eyes met Freya's, and it gave her the strength to speak. "Leave me alone," Freya said to Jane. But the words were just empty wind. They had no force. "I will. Everyone will. No one wants you around. Everyone just feels sorry for you. Why don't you just get it over with? Fucking kill yourself." The crowd erupted with gasps and oohs of delight. Radomir slapped Jane as hard as he could and knocked her to the ground. The crack of his hand was impossibly loud. It silenced everyone. "Idiot. Do not speak," Radomir said, standing over her, ready to hit her again. Then everyone found their voices at once, and there was chaos. 2 boys rushed forward and grabbed his arms. Radomir's arms. In a second, he was going to get beaten up. Jane was on the ground, holding her face and looking shot. She started to cry as shouts rang for them to break it up. She started to cry as an adult began shouting at them to break it up. It was Miss Struthers. She was nearly 70 years old, but her voice cut through the confusion. Everyone dispersed. "What in the world is going on here?" she asked. "He hit me," Jane cried, and voices echoed agreement. "I struck her. I will take the punishment," Radomir said. They were still holding his arms. He opened his palms. Some people were helping Jane up now. She was sobbing now. "Why on earth did you do that?" Mrs. Struthers asked, and a dozen voices were clamoring to answer her at once. "Pipe down. I'm not asking you," she addressed the mob. She looked at Radomir. "She said stupid things. They cannot be allowed." "Let go of me. I will not fight," Radomir said. Let me see. So here's the distinction. There. A teacher implies that she has like looked at the voice and then able to identify it. Whereas an adult's voice is identifiable even if you're not looking at them. So just from a like POV perspective, that's why we have adult. But let's take a look at it and see if it's fucking sticking out real bad. Yeah, adult voice. We just need to add voice there for that to track, right? "Let go of me. I will not fight," Radomir said. The boys who held him released his arms. "Well, let's all go to the office. What a dumb way to start the week," Miss Struthers said, shaking her head. "You too, Miss Jokla," she said, and Freya stood, caught in the fog. She lowered her head and followed them to Mr. Evers' office. Mm-hmm. Teachers have more authority than just about any adult in a high school, if that matters. I've seen janitors break up fights. Let's see. Did you mean to say they have no more authority, or that they, um, or are you saying that like when a janitor breaks up a fight, people pay less attention to the janitor? The janitor will fuck you up. But yeah, I guess the relative status would be an impact. I'm not sure. It's been like a long, long time since I've seen a fight broken up in a high school, so I can't really say if there would be a difference between like a teacher breaking it up and a janitor breaking it up. It's interesting. I'd like to know what you think. Uh, I think cops break them up now. Correct about the janitor. Okay. Cool. So chapter 42 is the Starball chapter. That works out. Okay. And then All is Lost. And I bet we have a design idea here. Full page line art, text centered, black outer vignette, crumbling into an empty center with All is Lost. Ooh, I like the look of that. Yeah, we're going to have some really like stark and interesting black and white things happen there. Okay. So it's 8:30. If we start on this, I really want to get to the other chapter where there's the fight. But what we're going to do is we're going to roll this back up to here. We're going to roll all the way back up to chapter 40. And tomorrow, when we start editing, we're going to do a full read through of chapter 40. And if I don't remember it, remind me. And I'll tell you why we're going to do that. One, because it's going to be after the show. So most likely I will not have as much sleep as I would like to have. And two, just I think chapter 40 definitely needs a little bit more work. I think chapter 41 would benefit from another read through, and I think we were very quick with our edit of the last part of chapter 41. So some good work today. So Axel Boost is at chapter 30 of his novel. Well, where are you at with it? Are you writing it? Are you editing it? Or yeah, like feel free. You've been showing up at the stream for a while, so feel free to like link the project or whatever if it's out there. If it's not out there, good luck with that shit. Don't tell anybody about it until you're done with your rough draft. Just people can only do damage to your writing process prior, and this is my theory. Not everybody believes that, but I think people can only harm your ideas if you tell them about them before the first draft is completed. Oh yeah, writing it. Yeah, don't tell anybody a fucking word about it. Don't say what it's about. Don't it's really an effort of will because you really want to talk about the thing that you're working on, and it's amazing and you're excited about it. But yeah, just do not tell a living soul until the first draft of the completed work is completed, and you will get so much more done. Is my advice. But yeah, happy to check out any other writing that you have that's completed or whatever there. Okay, well, that has been a good day. I'm sorry I didn't have a shiny new intro for you guys, but I blame Adobe right there. Like I don't know, like what you're supposed to be editing video in nowadays, but Premiere just really, what are you doing? Get your shit together, Adobe. I'm gonna try reinstalling the Creative Suite because it's just been kind of fucky since the installation of 2020. And while that's going on, I'm gonna handbrake the video down to H.264. And we will have ourselves an intro within the next couple of days here. So shout outs to everybody for tuning into this. We had some good progress today, especially on something where I felt like relatively unfocused. And I'm happy that we were able to power through it and not only hit our goal of doing at least one chapter each day, but I think we made some significant progress. So thanks to all y'all. Keep it real. Keep the hood in your heart. Don't get blown up by a fucking dirty bomb. Once again, if I get blown up by a dirty bomb, my friend Obscenator, who is out there in, he's like, just look for the guy who was in the military with me named Obscenator. There aren't that many of them. And he has all of my books and shit backed up if you wind up needing them later. But, just keep in mind, like, that's why we got to get these books out there. We got to do this. It could be a war at any time. You need to finish the things that you really want to get done in this life. And I'm living proof. Penis pump.